The sports you love, the teams you can't live without.
Get a sense of urgency!
This is Jake Scott and Ben Anderson on 97.5 The KSL Sports Zone.
Jacob Ben, 97.5 The KSL Sports Zone. Very much looking forward to our next guest, Ben. She is a basketball contributor for NBA.com and HHQ Sports. She's also a color analyst for NBA Future Now on the NBA app and NBA TV. She's our friend Krysten Peek. What's up, Krysten?
Hello. How are you guys?
We're doing
Can
well.
I just say, it's cold here in Vegas. There's snow.
Wow.
Here in Vegas. And now I'm like, why did I ever leave Utah? This is unbelievable.
Well,
Yeah.
if you dealt with yesterday's snowstorm, you'll remember why you left Utah. It was pretty rough here.
Did you guys get snow finally?
Yeah, it was the first snowstorm of the year. We finally got it, but it was a reminder of what nature can do. Well, we get a lot of reminders. Let's start with the Darryn Peterson stuff because it is.
Oh God. Okay. Yeah.
It is one of the weirdest stories I've ever seen, Krysten. Like, I think, bar none, he plays 35 minutes a night or even 30 minutes a night and plays in 25 of the games this season. No question, number one overall draft pick this year. But he doesn't. I mean, he pulls himself out of games. He's only played 15 games so far this season. Can you give us some backstory on how this came to be? Has this been his reputation? What is his reputation otherwise outside of these injuries? Is he well liked? And then what do you think is going on? How's it going to affect him?
So I might be a DP. I might be a Darryn Peterson apologist. Like I'm a huge fan of him. And, I was at Kansas during preseason. He was dealing with the cramping and then he had the hamstring issue. And, we saw Bill Self say a couple weeks ago, he's like, listen, he had cramping issues. Those were legit. Then he had his hamstring injury. That's legit. Then he had the flu. That was legit. And so this is just like a string of bad luck. And it is very, very weird. And it's very unusual to see a player check themselves out of the game like we saw last night. I mean, he had 23 points in only 18 minutes. And Bill said, like, he was on his way to a big game. And that was very, very clear. But I will say this. I don't know any player, like if you have full body cramps and you can feel it coming on, nobody wants to be the player that like collapses on national television, right? So I don't discredit him for checking him out. Like it is a very, very weird situation. It is causing NBA teams to like give a little pause as him as like the bona fide number one overall. And we saw Stephen A. Smith go off today and say, there's no way any NBA team should ever draft him number one. Like that to me is a little just dramatic. But yeah, it is something that everybody is going to have to look into and really get to the source of why these cramping issues are happening. We saw Paolo go through it in his 1 year at Duke. He seemed to get a handle of it, halfway through the season. But I don't have any answers other than, they're just erring on the side of caution.
But you do you agree with that take, though, that he would be the number one guy if not for all of this?
I do. And I still think there is a strong argument to be made about still, even with, all I had to see was that one half of basketball against BYU. And I was like, oh no, he's him. Like if Darryn Peterson is like healthy, he is one of the best young players in the NBA, in a couple years. So, listen, this draft class is so crazy. It's so deep. It's so talented. So if you are the team picking number one and you want the safe, quote unquote, superstar, you go with AJ DiBonsa. If you want to take a swing on, somebody who has been compared to, I'm not even going to say it, but some of the best the best player that has ever played the game of basketball, then, you take a swing and you hope that these injuries, you just you figure it out. But you're right. Like it is causing pause for NBA front offices for sure. Just seeing how wildly, this entire season for Darryn Peterson has played out. And by the way, I've said this before. Kyrie Irving only played 11 games. He was the number one pick out of Duke. I know it was different circumstances, but this sort of situation, we've seen it before.
We are reaching the weird point in the college basketball season, really the draft season, where everyone's bored, so they're coming up with weird hot takes now, and I saw one guy the other day being like, I think A.J. DeBonsa should go sixth. It's like, no, he averages 30 points a game. That's not what happens with those players. But along those lines, are you getting a sense of malaise, a sense of people trying to drum up stories when it comes to somebody like A.J. DeBonsa, who some people may perceive as sliding a little bit in the draft?
Yeah, I don't understand that, and that's not going to happen. There's no way he's sliding. I mean, in a crazy world, like Caleb Wilson getting hurt was really unfortunate because he was having the time of his life playing for North Carolina and was like keeping receipts and like standing on it, right? But I don't think in any world a 6'9" shooting guard falls past 3 in this draft. And we haven't even talked about Cameron Boozer, and I know he's like the safe, quote-unquote, boring pick. Everyone calls him Kevin Love. Great. But the fact that he is 3 and he could be the college player of the year this year is crazy to me. So, like, that top tier between Darryn Peterson, A.J. DeBonsa, Cameron Boozer, and Caleb Wilson, I think in terms of solidifying themselves as, like, that is tier 1, that's that. And then tier 2, that's where it starts to get interesting. Keaton Wagler has been playing excellent, came out of nowhere at Illinois. Darius Acuff, 49 points last night, and I think arguably the game of the year. That Arkansas-Alabama game was insane. So the second tier is where it gets interesting. But those 4 players at the top, come on. Like, what? It's silly. What are we doing?
So Ben and I had this discussion yesterday, I think it was yesterday, about whether or not college basketball coaches get too much credit. Like John Calipari had this reputation forever of being like, oh, this dude puts guys in the NBA. Is that true, or did he just buy the best players in the country and they were going to the NBA regardless of if they played for John Calipari or Bill Self or insert college coach here? And I'm curious, as somebody that watches these guys through their full development and not just glimpses in college, do college coaches get too much credit?
I don't know if they get too much credit, but they definitely use it to their advantage in the recruiting process. So we see Jordan Smith Jr. is just committed to Arkansas. Of course, it was kind of a 2-man race between Duke and Arkansas. Once Duke took Darryn Rippey Jr., I think that kind of pushed Jordan Smith Jr., the best two-way player in the class, to Arkansas. But it's something to be said as, like, now John Calipari can point to Darius Acuff and be like, Jordan, you can come in here and be Darius. You can come in and take his minutes. And we see it a lot. We see a lot with big-time coaches, with Duke. Arizona is really pushing hard. They're looking at Caleb Holt, and they're saying, listen, you can come in and be Braden Burries. And so I don't know if it's that, but they definitely use it to their advantage on the recruitment front because they can now point to different scenarios. And, like, listen, John Calipari is like, oh, the NBA draft, that's graduation. No, it's my graduation. I know more kids than you have, in your arsenal. So he's very, very good and has great marketing to those sort of things. But I don't know if it's they get too much credit for, because at high school, in the high school ranks, we already know these kids are going to be NBA players. Like, let's be real.
So the weird thing there is, some of these kids that we know are going to be NBA players don't consider schools, just simply won't consider 90% of schools out there because they aren't the NBA factory, even if they're going to go to the NBA regardless of where they go. And this gets interesting with BYU because BYU was the antithesis of an NBA factory. The guys who went to the NBA from BYU generally busted, and they were few and far between. Now you've got Yegor Dioman, who went in the top 10 and has had a very good rookie season. Obviously, AJ's going to be a top 2 or 3 pick like you're talking about now and is going to be a very good NBA player. They're in the running for Bruce Branch, who's a top 5 recruit next year. Do you think this is opening up for BYU as an NBA destination or a stop on the way to going to the NBA? Is that how they're going to be viewed?
Absolutely. Like what Kevin Young and his staff have done in a very, very short time, like running an NBA offense. And when you look at, by the way, I'm going to tell you this now because in the event that Bruce Branch III does go to BYU, his mom is very particular. It's Bruce Branch III. That's how he likes to be. And I've learned this the hard way. But, for Bruce getting on campus and like being a destination for these 5-star prospects that are going to be top 5 draft picks a year later, BYU is now a genuine destination. And the fact that KY and his staff and his brother Justin, who I've known for years, he's been in the trenches in the high school space. So just his connections and the way that he's able to maneuver around, like that it's huge. And it's become very, very clear in a very short time that, yes, BYU is a place for players that want to then be in the NBA.
Krysten Peek is with us. How much does, I guess, tournament play matter to NBA teams when making these decisions? And it's funny because you can think of examples on both sides. You know, Gordon Hayward, is the 9th pick in large part because of tourney runs. And then why do I always forget his name, Ben? Derek Williams from Arizona that was electric and then just didn't do anything. Is there a secret to that evaluation?
Walter Clayton Jr. last year played himself into the first round because of the run that he did with Florida. I mean, DeAndre Hunter and what he did. Like, of course, the tournament matters. And I think what it is, it's like this microscope of what these players can do under pressure. And if they can rise and play at a higher level, then that's very, it's very fitting for NBA teams. And we saw even with Stephon Castle, that Alabama game in the Final Four where they were like, okay, yeah, you're shooting 26% from three-point range. We're going to just let you shoot. And he was 4 for 6 from 3. So for him being, that confident and being able to knock down those shots in a high-pressure situation, of course it matters. But are they looking at the grand scheme of things? Yes. Like, it's not just this little finite moment in time where a GM is going to be like, we're drafting him because of this one game. Of course, they look at like the full scope of things, but there is something to be said about players that rise to the occasion and they play at the highest level.
If A.J. DeBonsa ends up being the number 1 overall pick in the draft, is it because of the team that wins the lottery, or is it because he's able to do X, Y, and Z before the lottery?
I think there's a lot to be said through like the pre-draft process. Like, I already have like my superlatives, internally of what I think teams' first impressions are going to be of these players. And AJ is very polished. He's going to interview very well. And, when you're looking at his landscape, especially this freshman year and what he's been able to do, even with Richie Saunders going down, which, by the way, what a heartbreak. Like, ACL injury. I still think he's going to be an NBA player, but what AJ is able to do, despite of that, and even last night, 35 points, but it's the game before that where he has 13 rebounds, and he's really just sort of showing himself as like more of a two-way player. I think that's really it's just going to be very, very interesting. I cannot wait for draft lottery night to see who gets the 1, 2, and 3 pick and which way they go.
How much do teams hold those kind of injuries against players nowadays? I mean, I'm old enough to remember where if you wrecked your knee the season before the draft, I mean, you fall out. I mean, they would, teams would stop looking at you. And now feels like where medicine is where it is, that it's much less a deterrent.
I think especially with NIL and the fact that like college basketball is getting older and older and it's thinning out the second round of the draft, even with Richie Saunders and like his ACL injury and his age, I think it's not going to matter because he works hard. He's a great teammate. Everybody loves playing with him, and he's a great shooter, 3-point shooter. And so when you're looking at the second round and the fact that it's probably going to be thinning out again because players are going to opt to return to school so they can get in a weaker draft next year and get that NIL money, I don't think it's going to hurt him one bit.
Let's say the Jazz don't win the lottery, which is the most likely outcome, but they do hold on to their pick, so they fall somewhere 6, 7, or 8. That's at least as of today the most likely outcome. Who's a guy in that range that you particularly like?
I love Keaton Wagler. I love that he doesn't even know how good he is yet. This is a 6'6" lead guard at Illinois. He was a top 150 recruit coming out of high school, totally overlooked. I mean, this is a player, he was going to go to Colorado State, and then Illinois snuck in last minute, and he's just been unbelievable. I spent 2 to 3 days at Illinois last week, and, he's got Tyrese Halliburton 2.0 written all over him. And so when you're looking at that 6 to 8 range, and tomorrow I'm going down to Houston, Arizona, so I'll go see Kingston Fleming. But yeah, there's a lot to like in that, 5 to 9 range. Elijah Arenas is playing really well right now. I don't know if he's really solidified himself in that lottery range, but the fact that he's come back from his knee injury, I saw him have the game winner against Penn State. So, again, this one-and-done talent class is ridiculous.
How are you feeling about the 2025 draft now that it's in the rearview mirror and we've got a pretty reasonable sample size on a lot of these players?
I'm no complaints. I think Cooper has exceeded my expectation. I think there was a lot of value in the second round that teams are getting. Caleb Love went undrafted, and now he's playing meaningful minutes off the bench in Portland. Con Knippel, I don't think anybody saw what he would be able to do in his first year, what he's doing for Charlotte. So I'm very pleasantly surprised. How are you guys feeling?
I think there's a real argument that 4 of the top 5 players, that player being Dylan Harper, which understandably everyone who's in front of him in that San Antonio roster, has outplayed expectations. I think Ace is better than people realized. He's not scoring the way people thought. He's a better basketball player than people realized. And VJ's been insane.
By the way, I'm not just saying this because this is you guys are KSL and it's like the Jazz, but I really, really like this core young group of Jazz players. And you're just missing that one piece. And, I know Jazz fans they're sick of it, but I'm telling you, after this draft, being able to see the just everything come together, I think is going to be super positive. But, and Ace, people didn't know he was a little bit of a wild card because nobody could get him in for a workout in pre-draft. And so for him to come in and be very, very surprising, I just saw him and Dylan Harper. We had him on the broadcast for the high school games over All-Star Weekend.
Last thing for me, Krysten, you see a lot of these guys make decisions about where to play college basketball, and you probably get a pretty good grasp on their mindset and what they value. I'm curious, could you possibly explain to me why anybody would choose to play for Mick Cronin?
No, it takes and listen, Mick is a very, very hard-nosed coach, and he's someone it takes a special player. I love this comment. They're like, "Oh, who are you going out to recruit?" And he's like, "I want to go to Europe, and I want to find a vodka drinking Serbian that gets in fights." He has no filter. Him and Kelvin Sampson. Anytime I have ever had the opportunity to be in one of their press conferences, I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm definitely not sending this one out. I have to go see what they're going to say because they literally have no filter. But, I don't know what's going on at UCLA. Mick is in his feelings this year. It's definitely
that's probably a very kind way to put it.
Speaking hormonal. Yeah.
Very kind way to put that.
Yeah.
She's not the best in the biz for nothing, I tell you what.
Yeah.
Krysten Peek, we are so lucky that you choose to come on our show. We appreciate it.
Always love coming on. Catch up soon, guys.
Thanks, Krysten.
I don't want someone else asking her, how could you possibly go on with those bozos? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
How could anybody choose to play for Mick Cronin?
That would be tough. Why do you hang out with them?
Imagine looking at Mick and his antics and going, I got to play for that guy.
Got to go there. That's where I want my son to go.
Gotta play for that dude. All right, stay tuned. We'll have more Jake and Ben coming up right around the corner, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.